podcast focused on trends shaping the future of manufacturing. I'm Alexandria Burek, your host, here with A.W. Schultz, two thought leaders with a passion for people and manufacturing. Today and every episode, we are diving deep into the advancements, sustainable practices, and dynamic changes transforming how we produce everything.
And now welcome Alexandria Burek and A.W. Schultz.
Hey, AW, welcome to another episode of Factory of the Future. Are we ready to dive into it today?
Yes. Very exciting topic today, or that's something that's close to everyone's heart that someone's got opinion on.
Everyone's touching it. So what we have decided to talk about today, guys, is Excel. We wanted to think about where Excel is in its life cycle, what role has Excel played in businesses from small up to the enterprise level up until this point, and then where do we see Excel fitting in the future, and what things do we think we might want to look out for. So AW brought a great study and a great set of information to the table here this week. It was a study done by Accenture that he shares with some of his clients and kind of references as he's going throughout his business dealings. Essentially, there were like 6 different topics that they highlighted as potential risks for Excel. So as he and I were talking about this to prepare for the episode, we were thinking, like, where is Excel really in its life cycle? Has Excel peaked? And honestly, after talking through it with AW and thinking about it from my own personal perspective and kind of heavy involvement with Excel on a day-to-day use, I'm starting to think that potentially Excel has already peaked, and it might become even more clear in the future that it's just kind of less advanced than maybe it was 10, 15 years ago as new technology solutions come into play. So AW, help me think through what were those 6 things that we said that were from the study, and then we're going to key in on the last 3. So let's let you introduce those 6 topics that the study had to share.
Yeah, so this was from Accenture and another company called Vance and Bourne. And in it, they were making a case for cloud computing. And I thought it was interesting that while we've all have used Excel, we probably all are still using Excel. I had to look on my browser to see if I had Excel open right now, which I'm proud to say I do not. But it's very common, it is open. But the 6 that they talked about was, 1, it's got limited scalability. And if you look at it, it doesn't interact well with other applications. That's certainly not if it's not in a Microsoft realm. We've all had the ability to build these multiple formulas and have them compute and run data, but there are limitations that they have. The other one is data entry errors. And, this could hold true for anything, garbage in, garbage out. But as we've probably all experienced in some portion of it is, putting wrong information in and having errors from it. Security risks. And certainly throughout the last few years, under cybersecurity and companies that have been attacked, there's that risk that Excel can has limitations on it, especially when you're talking about storing locally or on your individual computers. Number 4 is limited collaboration. And I think I mentioned that too, is, multiple teams need to be on there at the same time, and it can lead to different versions that are being used. And I don't know how many times I've had that conversation of asking, what version are you on? And only to find out that someone was doing the wrong work with the wrong information, and you're starting from scratch.
Yeah. I mean, hold on one second. I just got to chime in there because I am type A, like everything formatting on any document I work on has to be pristine and to the absolute highest standard. And I just find that working with other people in Excel just makes me want to punch somebody somewhere, like there's these weird color coding schemes. They have no sense of care whether things are lined up neatly. And I can't even look at data if it's all over the place and it's slap jobby. It just drives me nuts. And if people are leaving blanks, don't even get me started on that. So, okay, I digress. I will pipe down and let's get through the rest of the.
Number 5 is lack of automation.
Yeah.
It's not designed for automation, which means that many operation processes require manual intervention. And when we talk about robotics and high-speed packaging, these Excel is completely irrelevant to it, other than if you're going to do it manually.
Yeah.
And the last one, number 6, is the lack of integration. It's not designed to integrate with other systems or applications, and it may be difficult for to understand where the critical systems are if you're using an ERP or CMR systems.
Yeah.
So having that in mind, Excel has got, I think you would say like 15 years ago, it was, it was
like revolutionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To think that you could put a formula in there and it would give you an answer. But today with some of the capabilities, it's quickly, I don't know if it's quickly, I don't think it's going to die off.
It's getting outpaced. It's getting overshadowed. I don't think Excel is going to completely lose its place in the world or its usefulness. I just think it's going to, instead of being like the center stage core focus star player of the team, it's going to slowly recede back into more of an auxiliary, kind of like I would say Microsoft Word. Like I feel like when Microsoft Office and everything first came out, everything was all about Word, like building cards and doing all these interesting things. I remember that as a kid. And then suddenly, like as I got older, everything went from Word to PowerPoint. Now everything is going literally from basically Microsoft Office anyway to like Canva. More advanced, more creative type businesses are using Canva for their business presentations or their business plans or flyers, where in the past that was always Microsoft Office. So I just think that they're getting a lot more, there's more competitive programs, there's more advanced programs that are more ready to kind of move forward with all of the different things that are available, AI, just major, massive data. I'm really excited about talking about kind of the automation and integration piece, because when you think about big data, everybody's been collecting data. We've got so much data, but it's not really useful when it's in all these different, like, call it boxes. Like if you've got some information over here in this box and you've got another set of information over there in that box. And, as we were talking, I was comparing, some of the stuff without automation as trying to read a paragraph when every other sentence is written in hard copy print. And then the next sentence is on your computer and you're trying to read like this. It's just not efficient. And it's just not cohesive. And I think that's a lot of what Excel is now. It's kind of that, just everything is siloed and it's not put together in a way that just is smooth and easy to digest and kind of quickly see what's going on. I also think about it like currently the old way, I'll say, of doing things, and I'm guilty of it. I do it myself right now. And my boss, actually, I got to give him credit. He's been encouraging me to build the cloud technology so that I don't have to use Excel. And I'm just like, oh God, this is like mental gymnastics a little bit. Right. But it makes sense. Why would I want to have a cloud system to pull data out into Excel, have to do the manual download and then manipulate it and filter out all this stuff, only to then kind of put it in a graph? Like really the cloud solution and software should be able to do that on any dashboard. I think it's actually going to also open up the playing field for more people to engage with data, because if you think about Excel functions, if you're lucky and you have the aptitude for it, you can pick up quickly, or at least become self-sufficient if you have the right motivation and kind of, brain for that. But at the same time, like it's still difficult and there's a lot of trials and errors. Like you said, you get one error message when you're running a, multi-layer function, and all of a sudden you've got to sit there and troubleshoot. But in the future with using the cloud-based stuff, I see it being more like drag and drop, kind of like how WordPress or Squarespace is for website design. You don't have to be a coder. You just kind of drag and drop things in. And I think that's kind of like the future for kind of data analytics and building out dashboards and stuff like that. What do you think?
Yeah, you think about, you've probably had this happen too, is that back before we were using the cloud for everything, people kept their information on their computer.
Yeah.
And then you got that scenario where, well, he doesn't work here anymore, or they're on vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything's on pause until they come back
Yeah.
because they kept it on their personal computer. In the study that Accenture and Vason Bourne put together, they gave out some statistics on it, and we were trying to come together on understanding what does this, some of the data means. So as I mentioned some of these, we're going to give a kind of perspective of probably what they were thinking when they came up with some of these stats. But according to Accenture, they believe that 26% increase in demand forecasting accuracy. And for this, it's, you think about in applications where you feed in and it gives you that number that comes out. Where in the past Excel, you're putting the information in and you usually have a good idea where it comes. But where this is, it's offering more accurate data as it's brought in.
Yeah.
Also, a 60% reduction in supply chain operating cost. And this is an example of just knowing where your losses are at.
Yeah. I want to add to that too, is just real quickly, the cloud-based technology is more scenario-based, where it allows you to kind of build out different scenarios. Whereas in Excel, it's more like you have to think of the scenario, then work back to figure out how the function fits into articulating your scenario. Where in cloud-based data, cloud-based solutions, it's scenario focused versus kind of function focused. So
yeah, and it's also, some of these applications are a little bit harder to manipulate,
right,
which there's less opportunities for altering the data.
Yeah.
They saw there's 16% average reduction in operating costs. So I just imagine this is the labor of data entry of all this.
Yeah.
Reduction in IT spending, 17% average reduction in IT maintenance cost.
I still quite, we have to figure out what that is. We gotta do a deep dive on where where that information is coming. Maybe it's not having a Microsoft Office subscription for all the users that have to be on there. Instead, they don't need an email and all the other things and the licensing. They just have the cloud-based login and that's it.
Well, it might be that, some of these softwares, they offer, free IT support.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe you don't need an IT person.
Yeah. Or it's outsourced,
It's
right?
all outsourced.
Because they're doing the integrations, they're doing the management, they're housing the servers and all the stuff. So then you don't have to do it in-house.
Yeah.
Okay, we answered our question. Yeah.
And they said that also leads to a 19%, very specific, average increase in process efficiency. So I think some of these might be duplicates, but I'm thinking of the data entry and having to sit there and manipulate Excel to be able to spit out a number for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even when we're thinking about like integration, right, and automation. So in the example I was giving you earlier with the technology integration I did with the GPS tracking, the maintenance data, kind of like database, and then the maintenance program that we use, by integrating those three things and then setting up automations based on scenarios, we took what was three different buckets of information that weren't being used together and weren't being useful without kind of like a go seek methodology. We put it instead, we served it up to the people that needed to do it. So we reduced that barrier of entry. They didn't need to go seek the information that was available to them in this arduous data set. It was just instead presented to them as an action item on a silver platter. This item needs addressing. This asset is here, and here's what you need to do to it. We've already created the work order, so you don't have to do that because we already know all this information about what needs to be done and where and who and how. So you just need to go in there, verify that it's correct, add whatever might need adding, and assign it to the right person. So I think that you can make an easy case for integrations and automations and reducing kind of the overall business process expense. you know.
Yeah, I was in Angola a couple weeks ago, and I was doing a workshop, and we were talking about they've got their maintenance planners and schedulers and some of all the work that they have to do, because they still, even after the way this is a company that owns like 83 gas stations all over Angola. And this was a maintenance group, and they had, planning to make sure that, all the pumps are still running and they're able to
A
fill
lot
up the
that goes into
fuel.
that.
And what we're talking about putting in, work orders or, PMs. And I was talking about, I had a conversation about using AI to do it. And they were kind of like, well, what does AI know about pumps? And I go in there and I type, well, let's type, I need a I need a maintenance plan to change out, I think we were like a 1/4 inch butterfly valve on, I forget, we put some more specifics in there. And oh my gosh, I did it real time. So I was projecting, and it just blah, 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 and then we went through it line item by line item, and we were
Yeah.
just amazed. Like, yeah, I wouldn't even thought of that. Like,
Yeah.
who's accountable for that? Oh, it says who's accountable. It even put the time, how long it's supposed to take, put things in reverse order. So like if you take it apart, you have to put it back together. It was
Very
pretty
intelligent.
good.
Very intelligent.
But the thing, you still need somebody that knows what's
To
going
do,
on.
you need somebody who can also actually do that stuff, right? Like
Well,
you need
do
somebody
that
who,
stuff,
like,
but just
yeah,
to validate that the PM is valid.
right.
Because it sounded nice, and I was with a bunch of individuals that knew this stuff, and
Yeah.
we put things in. We knew what we were talking about. But prior to that, we're using Word and Excel to type things up. And
Yeah.
if you're not proficient in Excel,
Yeah.
you could struggle in this position where if you're using, just chat GPT to pull it together, it
Yeah.
does it in seconds, and you're just going through and just validating that it's valid.
I mean, ChatGPT has saved me so much brain power in the last 6 months, like, and I haven't even scratched the surface on it yet. And it's so funny because a year ago I was just like, oh. And now I'm just like, oh, like I literally played a game. I know we're going off topic here, but that's okay. I'm gonna let it happen. I played a game with ChatGPT and I let it like build out like a mood board for like my personal style, and it nailed it. Like it's just unbelievable. But like I love that you used it to make a PM schedule. I wonder how many people could like use it to like diagnose issues. What would be potential, like preventative maintenance or maintenance fixes for a machine failure? And maybe that'll segue into another topic. Maybe we could do some homework for that third topic, or the zero, what was it that you had brought to the
Zero
table?
defect manufacturing.
Yeah. So when we talk about zero defect manufacturing, maybe what we could do ahead of time is plan out, and like do some chat GPT stuff, like what, maybe side by side, we'll say like what we would say in order to prevent failure, but then compare it to like what chat GPT tells us to do, and illustrate kind of like the level of detail that comes out of it for our audience. That might be cool.
Yeah, we could think of some scenarios, and I can ask you can ask me, and then we'll ask ChatGPT.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
All right.
On Excel, is there anything else we want to talk about, or just kind of stay tuned? We didn't touch on Power BI, but I think everybody knows that that's also kind of in the mix and taking center stage and outpacing Excel now. So
Well, the one things about Power BI and Excel is that they're not the same. Power BI, the way you have to look through, everything's linear. And if you do not follow the rules of Power BI and try to upload an Excel into it, it turns into garbage. But the visuals that it puts out, it can really be good and lead to very healthy conversations when you're trying to understand losses and gain efficiencies in any industry.
Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know, it's like I am not proficient in Power BI yet, although I have a sense that in the near future or coming future, I'll probably dive into that a little bit more. But the way I understand the way Power BI works, and the way I would describe it to somebody who's maybe heard of Power BI but doesn't know, it essentially it it takes multiple data sets. You can map them and tie them together in a kind of flowchart design way. You can draw parallels between, maybe in one system it's called trailer number, in another system it's called unit number, and in another system it's called vehicle ID. You basically make this table that says trailer number equals unit number equals vehicle ID. And then Power BI just kind of like naturally incorporates the different headers that you have for those different naming conventions in different systems. And you can map it all together, but then it basically it takes the effort of putting something together in Excel like you would, creating the graph and the visual like you would, and then copying and pasting it into like a PowerPoint version. So Power BI basically takes all this raw data, it syncs it up so that way from different sources it matches. And then the output in Power BI, it resembles what you would get if you were building out a PowerPoint in PowerPoint. So it kind of takes these three systems and puts it into one. That's one way I would describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you where people probably see it and they don't realize they're seeing it, especially on the news. And when we were tracking all the COVID numbers, or during the election, how the individuals are able to tap on something and get all this data comes out.
Oh yeah.
That's Power BI.
Okay.
Or analysts on sports, and they're doing the different experience and they're tapping on it. That's Power BI. Cool. But that's probably that's the output of it. Now there's a lot of data that's going into it, but a lot of big data. But that's probably where most people can probably relate and where they've seen it.
Yeah, without knowing it. Good example. Really great example of how Power BI works, and kind of the layers of the data that you can access in Power BI, where you really don't have that same functionality in Excel. Are we clocking out?
We are clocking out. So this is an episode on Excel, something that's close to us, that's some matter on it. But stay tuned for our next episode, and we're out of here like finished goods.
Bye.
Goodbye. This is Factory of the Future, and we are out of here like finished goods. Stay tuned for our next episode of Factory of the Future, where we're exploring groundbreaking techniques and behaviors that are reshaping industrial landscapes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and help others discover the cutting-edge insights transforming manufacturing as we know it.